This video is about Carl Jung's warning of the most dangerous psychological sign, the person who is completely blind to their own shadow. Have you ever felt confused, even drained, by someone who always seems so certain, yet leaves you questioning yourself? Today we'll uncover why these people are so dangerous, how to recognize them, and how you can protect yourself. Stay until the end, because this insight could save you years of unnecessary suffering. We are taught to spot villains by their aggression, but history shows the most harm often comes from those convinced of their own righteousness. The real danger is the person blind to their own flaws, projecting evil onto others while believing themselves pure. These aren't fictional villains, they're everyday archetypes fighting shadows and leaving real casualties. Carl Jung explored this darkness, warning that the unexamined conviction of one's own goodness is a potent, insidious peril. This is the peril of the unexamined life, when certainty in one's virtue becomes a weapon. Jung's shadow is the unknown part of ourselves, our hidden impulses, shame and desires. Everyone has a shadow, but the danger comes when we deny it. Repressed, it grows stronger, seeking expression through projection onto others. We see our own flaws in those around us, convinced they're real, not realizing we're fighting our own reflection. This projection breeds prejudice, scapegoating, and self-righteous crusades. When certainty in our perceptions combines with shadow denial, we become trapped in self-deception, blind to our own darkness. We hold the key to our prison, but refuse to see the bars. Jung saw the unconscious shadow paired with moral certainty as a grave threat, not just to individuals but to societies. Such people are blind, yet utterly convinced they see clearly, leading others into shared delusion. Their conviction is infectious, building consensus around distorted reality. Jung warned of the total psychological blind spot, a systemic inability to see one's own flaws. The ego, desperate to maintain a perfect self-image, represses anything threatening, forming a powerful shadow. The more flawless the persona, the darker the shadow. When repression is absolute, the person becomes a stranger to themselves, blind to their own destructive impulses. Confronted, they react with denial and indignation. Their self-deception is total. Reason and evidence can't penetrate this fortress. The shadow acts out, justified as virtue. They become vessels for their own darkness, powerless to stop it. The shadow, denied, demands release through projection, attributing our flaws to others. This feels real. Our emotional reactions seem like proof. We see the world as flawed, not realizing it's our own reflection. Relationships suffer as we interact with our projections, not real people. Projection creates a toxic loop, justifying our righteousness and isolating us. Jung warned that a person possessed by their own shadow can infect others with their conviction, creating a powerful, seductive group narrative. This certainty spreads, dividing the world into us and them. Dissent is punished, and the group's shadow grows. One blind conviction can lead many into darkness. When one person's conviction is absorbed by a group, it creates a reality distortion field, a shared illusion. Drawn by certainty, members adopt the leader's projections, seeing the world through a warped lens. This collective belief becomes a psychological fortress, sustained by mutual validation, and fiercely resists any challenge to its reality. The echo chamber is a carefully constructed world, where core beliefs are amplified and dissent is silenced. The group's leader controls the narrative, shaping reality for all inside. Members find belonging, but at the cost of critical thought, defending the walls, not opening windows. It's a fortress protecting from the hardest truth, an honest look in the mirror. Sometimes the hardest part of life is recognizing the invisible forces shaping your thoughts and relationships. That's where therapy can help you gain clarity. If you'd like to explore this deeper, check out online therapy in the description. Use code therapy20 for 20% off. The world is a place of bewildering complexity, filled with ambiguity, nuance, and moral grey areas. Confronting this reality requires immense psychological fortitude. Reality distortion fields offer a tempting escape from this burden. Their primary seductive power lies in the profound simplicity they offer. They replace the messy, complicated tapestry of real life with a clean, simple black and white drawing. In this drawing, all questions have easy answers. All problems have a single identifiable cause. And the path to salvation or victory is clear and unambiguous. The narrative is always the same. We are the good, they are the evil, our struggle is righteous. This simplification is profoundly comforting to the human psyche. It alleviates the anxiety of uncertainty and the responsibility of making difficult moral choices. The charismatic individual at the heart of the distortion field becomes the ultimate simplifier. They possess the truth that cuts through all complexity like a sword. They identify the scapegoat, the single source of all the group's troubles. By focusing all the collective anger, fear, and frustration onto this one target, they provide a powerful emotional release. It is frankly far easier to hate a clearly defined enemy than it is to grapple with complex systemic problems, or even more dauntingly, with one's own personal failings and contributions to the chaos. This seductive simplicity is why such individuals are able to recruit entire social systems without realizing it. They are not offering a complex policy or a nuanced philosophy. They are offering a feeling of certainty, of belonging, of moral superiority. They appeal not to the rational mind, but to the deep-seated emotional and archetypal needs of the collective. They speak to the part of us that longs for a hero to follow, a dragon to slay, and a simple story where we are on the right side of history. They tap into the unconscious desire to offload the burden of individual consciousness onto a strong leader and a unified group. The danger, of course, is that this simplicity is a lie. It is a caricature of reality, not a reflection of it. By embracing it, the group disconnects from the real world and becomes incapable of solving real problems. Their actions, based on a distorted map, inevitably lead to destructive outcomes. They may win their battle against the phantom enemy they have created, but in doing so, they often destroy real relationships, real communities, and real lives. The siren song of simplicity leads not to a safe harbor, but directly onto the rocks. The comfort it provides is temporary and paid for at the devastating price of truth. If this resonates, subscribing ensures you won't miss the next layer we uncover. So, subscribe. The system becomes the shadow, embodying collective fears and biases. It crystallizes into rules and doctrines. The organization operates on unconscious projections. Biases and fears are woven into its culture. The shadow is in the system. Distortion is hard to challenge. It recruits those who fit its reality. The system perpetuates itself. It acts under the guise of progress. The danger is now a machine. Have you ever noticed someone projecting their issues onto you while being completely unaware of it? How did you handle it? Let us know in the comments. Jung saw ego inflation disguised as virtue, a mask of sainthood. The ego identifies with the sage, radiating serene wisdom and moral clarity. But beneath this shimmering surface, the unacknowledged shadow festers, twisting virtue into control and judgment. The mask protects the ego, but blinds the wearer to their own hypocrisy and harm. There is a powerful, addictive quality to feeling righteous. It provides an intoxicating sense of certainty and superiority. This feeling is their daily bread. Their self-worth is tethered to their belief in their moral infallibility. This righteousness becomes a drug. They seek out and exaggerate the flaws of others, confirming their own purity. They become relentless prosecutors. In their presence you feel perpetually on trial. Your remarks are analyzed for shortcomings. Their help feels like judgment. Their support undermines your confidence. Interactions lack genuine connection. They need to maintain moral superiority. Every conversation reinforces their identity as the wise teacher. This dynamic is disorienting. Their ego is wrapped in charm and goodwill. They praise your potential while highlighting your flaws. Their concern is a criticism of your choices. This mix of reinforcement controls you. You seek their approval, internalizing their judgments. You believe your discomfort is your own failing. It's a reaction to their toxic righteousness. Righteousness isolates them from true connection. Their relationships lack empathy and vulnerability. They can't see others as they are. They see others in relation to their self-image, surrounded by people yet profoundly alone, trapped in the gilded cage of their own perfection. Genuine love and friendship cannot penetrate their self-proclaimed sainthood. The unburdened ego moves with a strange lightness, appearing confident and serene. This charm is a byproduct of their psychological condition. However, their apparent freedom is an illusion, dependent on repressing their shadow. If challenged, their serene facade can shatter, revealing a deeply wounded ego. When ego inflates with virtue, goodness becomes a weapon, both shield and sword. Reputation for compassion deflects criticism and justifies control. Their goodness cuts others down, inflicts guilt and isolates. True virtue connects, not controls. Weaponized goodness is a perfect disguise for the will to power. We all wear masks. In Jungian terms, this is the persona, the curated self we show the world. The danger comes when we forget it's a mask at all. Over time, the mask can fuse to our skin, leaving us hollow, a flawless performance hiding a neglected, withering self beneath. When the individual self is hollowed out by an over-identification with the persona, a vacuum is created. The conscious ego, having abandoned its role as the mediator between the inner and outer worlds, becomes weak and brittle. This psychological vacuum does not remain empty for long. It becomes an invitation for the powerful, autonomous energies of the collective unconscious to rush in and take control. This is the moment when the persona trap leads to something far more dangerous: archetypal possession. The individual, having become a mere character, is now a perfect vessel for the archetype that their character represents. An archetype, as Jung described, is a primordial pattern of human experience. The hero, the mother, the judge, the trickster. These are not personal traits. They are immense transpersonal forces that belong to the shared psychic inheritance of all humanity. When an individual becomes possessed by an archetype, they are no longer acting from their own will. They have become a puppet, animated by the immense and impersonal energy of the archetype. The teacher who over-identifies with their persona as the wise old sage is no longer just a person teaching a subject. They become a mouthpiece for the sage archetype itself, speaking with a booming, inhuman authority that is not their own. This possession explains the uncanny and dangerous persuasiveness of such individuals. They radiate an energy that feels larger than life, because it is. Their words carry a mythic weight that resonates with the same archetypal patterns dormant in the unconscious of their audience. People are drawn not to the person, but to the archetypal power flowing through them. This is why followers can exhibit such fanatical devotion, willing to overlook glaring flaws and contradictions. They are convinced they have achieved a higher state of being, that they are filled with divine inspiration or unshakable purpose. In reality, they have lost their humanity. They have been consumed by a force they cannot comprehend or control. They lose the capacity for doubt, empathy, and self-reflection, the very qualities that define a conscious individual. Their personal story has been overwritten by a much older, more powerful narrative. When someone is possessed by an archetype, they become an empty vessel, dangerous because they act with absolute conviction, without empathy or nuance. The archetype's energy overwhelms them, driving them to see every situation in black and white. This force is contagious, spreading to others and turning personal pathology into collective chaos. Escaping the persona's gilded cage means daring to look beneath the mask, confronting our shadow, and embracing our wholeness. It's the lifelong work of becoming an individual, accepting both our light and darkness. The reward is freedom, to live authentically, to have genuine relationships, and to be truly consciously alive. Contemporary neuroscience is now beginning to map the neural circuits that underpin Carl Jung's profound insights. Our brains are active predictive engines, constructing our experience based on sensory data and internal models. Perception is a painting, and your brain is the artist. The brain's primary goal is to create a coherent story. The system is designed for coherence, not necessarily for truth. The brain is a master of self-deception, protecting the ego from uncomfortable truths. The right hemisphere connects to raw experience, while the left creates narratives. It excels at rationalizing and justifying our feelings. Cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias cement these perceptions. The brain reallocates attention to support its projections. Contradictory evidence is often futile against ingrained beliefs. The conviction that fuels dangerous projections has a powerful neurochemical basis. It is, in a very real sense, an addiction. When we successfully project our shadow and create a narrative where we are righteous and the other is flawed, our brain rewards us with a cocktail of pleasurable neurochemicals. The act of judging another person, of confirming our own moral superiority, can trigger a release of dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with reward, pleasure, and addiction. This dopamine hit provides a feeling of satisfaction, a sense of power, and a rush of certainty. We feel good, we feel right, and we want to feel that way again. This creates a self-perpetuating cycle. Each time we find fault in our designated scapegoat, we get a small dopamine reward. This reinforces the neural pathways associated with the projection, making it easier and more automatic to think that way in the future. The brain learns that judging this person equals feeling good. Over time, this can become a compulsive behavior. The individual becomes addicted to the feeling of righteousness, constantly seeking out new evidence of others' failings to get their neurochemical fix. Their outrage is not just a psychological stance, it is a physiological craving. This explains the relentless, obsessive nature of some individuals who seem to be perpetually on a crusade against some perceived evil. Simultaneously, this process reduces the levels of cortisol, the primary stress hormone. The internal conflict of harboring an unacknowledged shadow trait is stressful. The brain is in a state of dissonance and anxiety. By projecting that trait outward, the internal conflict is resolved, and the brain is flooded with a sense of relief. Cortisol levels drop. The world now makes sense again, and the source of the stress has been located and identified externally. This combination of a dopamine rush and a reduction in cortisol is a powerful motivator. The brain is essentially taught that projection is an effective strategy for managing stress and feeling good. This addictive chemistry is why the conviction of the projector is so unshakable. To give up their projection would mean more than just admitting they were wrong. It would mean plunging themselves into a state of neurochemical withdrawal. It would involve facing the anxiety of cognitive dissonance, a spike in cortisol, while being deprived of the pleasurable rush of righteous certainty, a drop in dopamine. From the brain's perspective, this is a state to be avoided at all costs. The distorted perception feels real and convincing because the brain is chemically motivated to protect it, defending the illusion with all the tenacity of an addict protecting their supply. Faced with the dangers of the unconscious shadow, Jung offered us a path, the courage to look within. True protection begins not with judging others, but with honest self-examination. Know thyself. By owning our darkness, we reclaim our wholeness and build resilience, no longer controlled by shadows but strengthened by self-awareness. Jung's active imagination is a conscious method of engaging your unconscious, meeting the shadow, archetypes and neglected parts of yourself. Through honest dialogue, you transform these inner figures from unseen puppeteers into conscious collaborators. This process builds a bridge to your inner world, turning the shadow into an ally and the archetypes into sources of wisdom. A crucial part of psychological self-defense is learning to recognize and systematically withdraw your own projections from others. Projections are like invisible hooks that we cast out, latching onto people and situations. These hooks distort our perception and drain our psychic energy in pointless external battles. The practice of withdrawing them is an act of reclaiming your power and your clarity. It begins with the mindful observation of your own emotional reactions. Whenever you feel that telltale emotional charge, the disproportionate anger, envy or adoration, you have likely snagged a projection hook. The task is to consciously unhook it. To do this, you must perform a kind of psychological reversal. Take the judgment you have placed upon another person and try it on for size. If you find yourself thinking, "That person is so arrogant and controlling," force yourself to ask, where am I being arrogant? In what area of my life am I trying to exert rigid control? If you feel contempt for someone's perceived weakness, you must ask, what is my own unacknowledged weakness? What vulnerability am I refusing to face in myself? This exercise is not about concluding that you are just as bad as them. It is about recognizing that the energy and attention you are directing outward belongs to a conflict that is happening inside you. This practice has a dual effect. Firstly, it clears your vision. As you withdraw your projections, the people around you begin to emerge from the fog of your own unconscious biases. You start to see them as they actually are, in all their complexity rather than as caricatures of your own inner demons. Relationships that were once fraught with inexplicable tension can become clearer and more authentic. You stop fighting with ghosts and start interacting with human beings. This allows for the possibility of genuine empathy and connection, which are impossible as long as the hooks of projection are in place. Secondly, and most importantly, withdrawing your projections brings the energy back to where it belongs, within you. The psychic energy that was being wasted on judging, scapegoating and fighting external enemies can now be used for your own psychological growth. Each time you unhook a projection, you reclaim a lost piece of yourself. You reintegrate a disowned trait. This is the very essence of the individuation process, the lifelong journey of becoming a whole, undivided individual. It is the ultimate form of protection because a person who is whole and integrated offers no hooks for the projections of others to latch onto and has no need to cast out hooks of their own. Jung's essential protection is psychological humility, recognizing the vastness of the unconscious and the limits of the ego. It's knowing you don't know everything, especially about yourself. This humility grounds you, keeps you open to growth, and protects you from dangerous certainty, making you resilient and human. Jung warned, the danger is the unconscious shadow, masked. This shadow, if ignored, becomes a force shaping our reality, distorting relationships and fueling conflict. The warning, remain vigilant, question certainty, and remember, this darkness lives in this world. The greatest safety lies in conscious awareness. By turning inward, we own our shadow and free ourselves from the projections of others. This clarity grants us freedom, no longer puppets to others' dramas, but centered in our own truth. With humility, we become a force for clarity and sanity in our world. Jung's message is not one of despair, but of hope. The shadow is not just darkness, it holds our hidden strengths and creativity. By facing it, we transform it into light. If this video spoke to you, give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more. And don't stop here. Check out the next video waiting for you on the screen.